Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be unboxing two incredible nests from Kos Ants. And also I'll be putting some colonies in them so I can actually judge how well they do. And just a heads up, this video isn't sponsored, but he has sent me the nest for free, but again asked for the nest to be reviewed honestly. So that's what I'm going to do. And he's also given me a discount code that you can use on his store for 10% off. And it's Dorset10. And also I'm quite happy that I got this, so thank you Kos Ants. I'll put a link in the description so you can go to his store after the video. He sent me some cotton and a pipette so I can water the nest. First off, we're starting with the micro Artemis Outworld. His products come in two colours, the light blue that you see in the Artemis Outworld and the white that you see in the other. The Artemis Outworld is used for small colonies in one test tube. The connector for the test tube looks to be made out of TPU, which is a more flexible material and is better for test tubes as well. It can fit different sizes and just more versatile. The lid fits snugly and the laser cut holes seem to be small enough so no ants can get out. One bad thing about the lid is that when it came it was taped onto the Outworld, so it was a bit like, well, residue, you know, the sellotape sticky part. It had a lot of that on it, so I had to wash it off, and I mean, it wasn't the biggest problem, but it's still a negative. Aside from the sellotape though, I'd say this Outworld is perfect for a small colony. So now we'll move on to the Artemis 2-in-1 Outworld. You're able to get the nests connected to this separately, but I'm not sure about the Outworld. So if you just want the nest from this, you can buy it alone, but I'm not sure about the Outworld again. Just like the micro Outworld, the connector seems to be made out of TPU, which is a flexible material and allows for snugger fits. And what I do quite like is how when this nest came in the mail, it was already made. I didn't have to do any setup, and the whole setup's quite compact, so it's quite nice for me as I need quite a lot of space. So having a more compact nest is better as I can stack them or just put more in a single space. Although these nests are 3D printed, it looks to be that they're printed at a very small layer height, so it is quite nice and smooth, and also the logo on the side is very clear, so that's nice. And again, even though the only setup you'd have to do for this micro Outworld is plug in the adapter, it is really nice to have it already done for me, as when I set up Wakushi stuff it takes forever, and I mean, if you've ever had a Wakushi Outworld you'll know the pain. Okay, so the colony I'm going to be moving in here hasn't been seen on the channel before, and I've not even mentioned the species before. Depending on how they do in the next few weeks to months, they might come out in the next week, their video, but it may be longer. For now, I'll give you a preview of them just so you know how they're doing and what they are. These girls are camponotus japonicus. They're quite common in the ant keeping community and they grow quite big. I bought them from Ants on a Rock, but unfortunately their test tube came a bit, well, in shambles and it was cracked. This resulted in the worker's death, so I had to move the queen into a new test tube and yeah, hopefully she'll get some eggs and workers soon. But hopefully she'll get her colony back and I can move her back into this setup. So even though I haven't been able to use the Outworld much, I'd still say it's good as it did its purpose and fed the colony. And so far it's been about a week since I put her in the test tube and she's already gotten like 8 eggs, so hopefully she'll grow pretty quick. But enough of that, it's time to move on to the 2-in-1 Outworld. The whole setup is the same layer height, so that means that the Outworld is just as tall as the nest. While the Outworld may not be that tall, it still is long and wide, so it's better for smaller species or species that aren't as good at climbing. The nest has a hydration port, so you can humidify your ants correctly. The nest does vary in the height of the floor, but it's quite minuscule and really hard to notice, and I don't think it really adds much for the ants, so I mean, it looks nice, but it doesn't really do much. Unless it is just a mesh that is so fine that I can't really see it, which it might be, and that might just be so that the ants can put their brood on it so it's a bit more hydrated. In which case, good idea. So now we've covered the setup, it's time for the ants. This is a Lasius Flavus colony, which I caught during the nuptials of this year, well, last year's summer. And I also made a video about the Lasius nuptials last year. This colony is 4 months old, and they're a dual queen Lasius Flavus colony. It's alright though because they're polygynous and they like multiple queens. The extra queen also means that they'll start faster and grow bigger. And no, I'm not trying to tap the queens or brood or the entire colony into the Outworld, I'm just trying to put the ones at the edge of the test tube in so I don't kill them whilst attaching them to the setup. Luckily though, none of the workers, queens or brood were hurt, so it was a successful move. One flaw though is that when I put the cotton from the test tube into the Outworld, it reached the lid. So it meant that it was quite hard to remove it as they were just able to climb onto the lid. Lasius Flavus are one of my favourite species though, as they're basically one of the only ones that I can see in real life, in well, my back garden or just anywhere in the UK. And also I quite like how they forage as they just go out, eat and then come back. they don't go angry like my camponotus, and also they look pretty cool. They're also really common and easy to keep, which makes them great for beginners. Here you can see what I mean when I said the cotton was reaching the lid of the outworld, as it was quite hard to remove. And one last flaw of the nest is that when it came, it didn't have anything to cover it like red acrylic or like a black foam, so I had to get my own, but luckily I already have loads, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me. But so far, as I've been looking through the setup, there's at least been one in the nest and one in the outworld at all times, as I've given them sugars and mealworms to keep them preoccupied. And even though the nest isn't heated, after I watered it, it's still been humid, which is really nice to see as the Lasius Flavus have been loving it. I know my pipette skills are absolutely horrendous, but give me some slack. I haven't used a pipette in ages, as I've been opting out for syringes. But at least one good thing about this nest is that it holds humidity for quite a while, as I watered it and it lasted about a week. But that might just be because the temperature in my room is quite low, so it doesn't evaporate as much. Even though these are a really small species and probably the smallest ones you'll keep for a while if you're a beginner, the laser cut holes are really too small for them to fit through, so it will be really safe with micro species. Also, this is one of my first videos using a new tripod, so tell me if you think it's good in the comments below. I'm going to be feeding them with some sugar that I made myself and dyed blue. Although they're quite small, you can still see it, hopefully, in their glasses. Instantly, they were quite angry, but nowhere near as angry as my camponotus, but then they figured out it was sugar and started to drink. Just like dogs, they started wagging their antenna around the sugar, happy as can be. Okay, so this nest has worked pretty well, and the Lasius have been loving it. So far, they haven't moved in, but that's because they've been in their test tube for 4 months, and they've only been in here for a week, so it's kind of expected. But I will be making a future video about these guys, updating you on how they're going and how the nest is doing for them. Don't forget to use code Dorset10 at checkout if you're going to buy one of these nests. Thanks for watching, thanks Kos Ants for the nests, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.